BBC Introducing in Hereford and Worcester
with Andrew Marston.
Our Worcester Filmmakers series looking at music production in the county draws to a close this week. Jim Lowe's On the Record documents what life's like on the road for our local industry professionals. Now, the first series was such a hit, he came back for a second run. He's now exploring ways of filming those musicians who are too nervous to appear in front of a live audience. So Jim Lowe, here we are at the Droitwich Music Festival. Got your camera out again. You've always got your camera whenever I see you.
Well, it seems to be something to do while I'm there as well, and I love collecting anyway, so I've got quite a collection of acts on the YouTube channel. It's brilliant at Witchwood as well. Got so many acts.
Fantastic, yeah. And then of course you got On the Record, and we've just got to the end of this current series.
Well, yeah, the last episode goes out on August the 4th. It's been great. I like the ones where they're taking a sideways look a bit, like the parents' view. I've got one coming up with an audience member's view and things, and I think that gives it just a different perspective on things as well. So.
And just remind us why you were inspired to do this in the first place.
Well, I feel like there's a lot of artists that get an awful lot written about their creative process, and yet I think it's just as fascinating when the local people do it as well. And I'm trying to take a snapshot of the music scene now, because I actually think it's like a photo album. It'll be more interesting in 10 years' time when people look back at it. Just like I would have loved to have seen something done in the early 70s of something of what it was like then, and then had this to compare, so...
Yeah, because I suppose, going back to the 70s and being in this part of North Worcestershire is Robert Plant's original group, like Band of Joy, but nothing documented. The internet wasn't around. You can't see YouTube videos, and wouldn't you love to have seen how it all began?
Well, especially if you'd have seen them performing in local pubs and things like that at that point. So, but the nearest I've got to that is Gazettee's interview, because he does go right back to the early 70s. I mean, I thought it was fascinating when he was saying that the punk thing, everybody knows that it affected things nationally, but he said it hit the grassroots level as well, that suddenly venues only wanted punk and new wave acts. They didn't want the old acts on. And you don't think that it would have affected local music like that as such a sea change. And then the mobile discos, where he says that all of a sudden the venues were dropping bands when disco fever came on, and then they were just having the DJs in instead, which is a profession you know well about.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then you wonder what's going to happen next. That's what I'm always looking at now, is I'm thinking that there's surely got to be a new movement of music that's going to come along that's probably going to change things again, but we probably just haven't seen it yet.
So why a second series of On the Record? Why didn't you stop at the end of the first?
I did think so, but I've actually got a queue of people that wanted to do a second series. I've actually got a queue of people who want to do a third series, but I just feel like I might saturate it too much if I go and do another one just yet, so I might just leave a little break. But when I did the one with James Gwynn, he was talking about a section of music that's kind of getting missed, and that's the in-between the performing in the bedroom stage and the open mics, the people who are too nervous to go to the open mics, or are maybe producing music that's too quiet for the open mics. And so I might help him to produce something where we get people into venues where there is no audience, so that we can record people as quietly as possible and see if there's any sort of demand for that sort of acoustic music where it's incredibly gentle.
It was an interesting comment which he said on tape, which was there's all sorts of musicians who are playing in unlikely venues, like in back gardens and in sheds or wherever, and you're only performing to a camera rather than to an audience, but maybe 100,000 people are checking you out on YouTube.
Absolutely, and he said these are getting record label backing as well, so clearly they think they're onto something. So I said I might try and help him, because I think we could do that at a local level and actually create something a little different. Again, using the On the Record thing, Craigus and his Llama Lounge is an inspiration, because I'm thinking if we can bring a bit of that sensibility into it as well, just to give a different type of thing than the normal open mic nights. So.
Now, your day job, you managed WH Smith in Worcester.
Yeah.
Where do you find the time to film and edit?
You get pretty savvy. Sometimes things take hours to upload, and so I'm literally putting them on at 11 o'clock at night, and then when I wake up in the morning, they've uploaded, and then I'll carry on from there, and then I'll go to work, come back. It does take a lot of time.
And you must have a very patient wife.
Yeah. Yeah, she's been very supportive of my hobbies. I think she prefers this to my record collecting, because at least I'm not running out of pledge and all her Mr. Sheen by polishing all my records I found at car boot sales. So this one's a bit cleaner.
And this is and cheaper.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's Jim Lowe, and you can see a link across to some of his pieces on our website by heading over to bbc.co.uk/Hereford and Worcester/introducing.
Listen to the best interviews online.
bbc.co.uk/Hereford
and Worcester
/introducing.